Welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
There's been some like movie news going on recently, some relatively big news. Had a couple things in mind to talk about. One of them kind of like, the second one kind of like, whoa. And then the third one kind of flying a little more under the radar, something that most people might not know about, and something pretty cool I kind of stumbled across.
All right.
So the first one, did you see they named James Bond 25?
I saw that it got named, but I do not recall. I know it has the word die in it.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say
it's James Bond.
It's very Bondian. It's No Time to Die.
No time to die. That's right. Sounds like it's almost a Die Hard movie.
Yeah, right. That is the funny thing. It's like if you take out the word hard from the last two Die Hard sequels, it does just sound like a Bond movie. It's like live for your die, like, which is also just the New Hampshire state motto, and a good day to die.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, fuck, those are Bond movies. I've really dug Daniel Craig as James Bond. He's been a really good Bond, even if I didn't like all the movies that he was in.
Yeah. Is this his last official last Bond?
I think it is, because I feel like it was up in the air if he was even going to be in this one.
Okay.
So I think it's like, okay, yeah, fine, I'll do one more. Which, I mean, I'm grateful for. I didn't realize he only had 4. Like, this is his 5th one. And I was like, really? Only 5? I could have sworn there were more.
I think it's because there's so many years between them.
Yeah, I mean,
He's just technically been it for
since
a lot of years.
2006 or something when Casino Royale came out. That one was tight though. I know we didn't talk too much about it. It felt like one of those movies that we went and saw, and there was sort of just like a non-conversation afterwards about Spectre.
Yeah.
I was very bummed at how poorly used Christoph Waltz was. That was a real disappointment. Like, you have the maniacal bad guy at your disposal,
right,
playing like a classic Bond character, like for the new generation, and you just drop the ball. 100%.
How it still baffles me.
It just, I mean, it's been talked to death, but it's just like, it just didn't make any goddamn sense. It's like, what do you mean you're behind everything? None of this stuff seemed connected until you brought that up. So hopefully this one's a little more memorable, because I still remember a bunch of shit about Skyfall. That was a great one, even if it did have that ridiculous Komodo dragons part, where that crazy casino, and he like drops the bodyguard into the Komodo dragon pit. That's a pure like Bond moment though, just a ridiculous, like it's basically the equivalent of that like sharks in the water that you dip someone into that Austin Powers parodied. It's kind of that, except it's like, all right, it's not sharks this time. Komodo dragons. We're gonna switch it up a little bit for this movie.
Hell not?
And I really liked. Now I forget his fucking name. The bad guy. He was in No Country for Old Men. Javier Bardem. There we go.
I was like, Anton Sugar. No.
Yes, Anton Sugar. No, Javier Bardem. I thought he was really good as Silva or whatever. That was a good one.
He's a great bad guy.
He should be every bad guy. I'm down for that.
Almost every bad guy.
Christoph Waltz gets the other ones.
Yeah. Exactly.
He was the only fucking good part of that Pirates movie, that newest Pirates movie, where he's the like ghost captain, the bad guy.
Oh, right. Yes.
That was dope. That was like the only part of that I liked. I was like, oh, I get to see some more Javier Bardem chewing some scenery and being evil. Yes. Great. But the bad guy this time is Rami Malek.
Oh.
That's pretty interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I mean, I know we talked a little bit about Bohemian Rhapsody, just in general.
Yeah.
I was a little underwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
I felt, and then he goes and wins the Academy Award.
I know, right?
And all that, and it's like, because that's like that was the thing to me that really stuck out to me. Is like, one, I wasn't really believing that voice coming out of him.
Yeah.
And two, he played him like such an alien. He seemed very extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
And it was a little off to me. But I mean, he's also been he's also gotten a bunch of applauds for that TV show he was on, Dr. Robot.
Mr. Robot.
Dr. Robot.
Promoting him over here. Look at that.
He went to school. He got his doctorate.
So proud of him.
Dr. Robot. It's definitely a very Bondian kind of villain, where it's like, that he won't be the like physical villain. Like, it's like he won't be the person that James Bond is fighting at any point. I feel like he's really short. And I don't know why. I've never really looked into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could pull it up from the page for James Bond. How tall is Rami Malek? Oh, no, not Ramo.
He's 5'9".
Damn. Okay. Well, on here it says 5'7.5" to 5'8". So he's between 5'7.5" and 5'9". So yeah, not a particularly tall guy, especially not up against Daniel Craig.
Right.
So it's like that's an interesting, not necessarily twist, because it's not like James Bond typically fist fights his bad guys. You know what I mean? Normally it's more of like a battle. Oh, actually, well, now I'm thinking back on it. He fucking gets in a fist fight with Trevelyan in Goldeneye. But yeah, at least not any of the Daniel Craig versions.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he ever really fights his bad guy. He might get into like a gunfight or something, but they don't really beat each other up.
Yeah.
They have henchmen for that.
Yeah.
The other thing, I don't know if you've heard of it yet, and it sort of relates to something that we were talking about relatively recently, but did you see they have greenlit The Matrix 4?
I did see that.
I know we were talking before. You were all psyched that the original was going to be in theaters again. I
saw the second Matrix in theaters with a couple friends, but I never got the chance to see the first one. But I loved it. It's been a while since I've watched it. But,
yeah, me too.
But I always enjoyed it. I did watch it several times.
Do you think if a trailer comes out for that fourth one, are you going to be like, you might want to see it?
I mean, it would depend.
If there's ever a time to strike when the Keanu iron is hot, they're doing it right now, which makes sense.
Yeah, it is great timing on the whoever studios.
I mean, it's Warner Brothers that did them. I don't know. Yes. I'm sure they still own the rights.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're not giving that shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great timing by Warner Brothers, but story wise, I'd have to see like what the concept is.
Yeah, I mean, for one, like, since it was such a clearly defined like trilogy, I don't recall how it all ends. Do you remember how it like ends? Doesn't Neo die?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he gets carried along the people in
Zion.
In Zion, somehow like communicates with the machines, or he gets like plugged in or something. Oh, that's right. He gets plugged in, and then he has that crazy ass fight, and it's the one time that he wins. Like Agent Smith has seen this however many times. And then Agent Smith winds up calling him Neo, and he like is taken aback. He's like, I've never called you that. Like, and then Neo wins, and the robots all get pulled back because all of the like sentinel creatures that were flying around were just like,
they're coming for him, right?
Well, they were coming for the people of Zion, and then when Neo like met the big like master robot creature, which
Dr. Robot.
Yes, when Neo met Dr. Robot, Dr. Robot called off essentially all of the sentinels, so they were just like floating around nicely, like waiting to see what the end result was going to be, and then
to pick their side, or
to see if they were to kill the people or not. And
so if Neo died, then they'd be like, all right, well, we're taking your people. Or like if Neo lost.
Yes, if Neo had lost, because he died, but he still won the fight.
Right.
Yeah, that was like part of the thing. Is like they killed him.
Yeah,
but he won, so the machines were called off.
I'm like vaguely pieces and pictures are.
His eyes got burned out.
Back into right.
And then he wears a bandana over him, like
like a fucking like Kenshi from Mortal Kombat. The blind fighter who just his like thing is over his eyes, so then he just fucking kicks your ass without sight. From what I saw, it's Keanu Reeves signed on, Carrie-Anne Moss signed on, and apparently just Lana Wachowski of the two of them. I guess just one of them, at least as for now. I assumed it would have said the Wachowskis if both of them had, but it only specified Lana, and I was like, okay. Seems odd to do so much in your career together, and then for the fucking like almost I guess rebooting of your most famous fucking thing that one of them did. I mean, I guess at that point, maybe you just don't even want to deal with it anymore. Like, you've been through so much Matrix related shit that it's like, you know what? I'm cool.
Yeah. Like,
I'll sit out.
You can do this one. Go for
you
it.
got it.
You know what's up.
Yeah. It was both like completely out of the blue to me, but at the same time, like we were talking about, where it's like, it's Keanu's, the Keanu sans, whatever you want to call it, where it's like, okay, yeah, if you're going to get stuff, like if we're ever getting Speed 3, it's now.
Yeah.
Oh God, that would be great. I would so go and see a Speed 3.
I never saw Speed 2.
Speed 2 is garbage. Speed 2 has nothing to do with Keanu. Keanu's not in it.
Okay.
It's Sandra Bullock and I'm gonna forget his name. Scott Speedman, I think. But he's just another dark-haired white guy but the bad guy's Willem Dafoe.
Nice.
What a waste of Willem Dafoe in a Keanu-less Speed movie. It's like no need for that. So Speed 3 I would totally be down for. Can only imagine the kind of villain you could get for it now. Imagine like a Jeff Bridges villain or something like that. Oh,
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, exactly. Rami Malek, apparently. I didn't have a full plot, but I had an idea for Speed 3.
Oh.
Where it would be, since he's such a great actor and he's done so much since then, to bring him back, but to have Jeff Daniels play Harry as a bad guy, like he survived the first movie somehow, and blames, Jack for putting him in that scenario. So he comes back and he's the fucking bad guy. That would be cool, especially if you didn't know it was him at all. Like none of the marketing, and maybe even like 45 minutes into the movie, you're still kind of in the dark as to who the bad guy is. And then it's like, holy shit, Jeff fucking Daniels. Oh, that'd be great. Bringing the Matrix sort of back, it's like, again, like I said, kind of out of the blue, kind of like an inevitability. But at the same time, I was like, I felt like that franchise was going to be just like laid to rest, simply because I feel like it's one of those untouchables in terms of remakes.
Yeah.
Like, like not so much in terms of like it's so good, but it's just so unique.
Yeah.
That it's like, if you try to do it again, it's like it's just going to be aping the style of the Wachowskis from that movie. You could never make that movie in a different way than it was already made.
Yeah.
It's like, technically you could make Casablanca a different way.
Yeah.
And have it still be pretty good or whatever, but not have it just be like, I mean, people would still reject it outright, but it could still stand on its own,
right,
as like an interpretation of that story. But with the Matrix, it's like you could never separate the two. It was such a landmark movie that it's like, not a chance. It's like Jurassic Park. You'll never get a remake of Jurassic Park. They'll do the Jurassic World reboot kind of shit. They'll keep sequels going. You could never remake Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I mean, never say never. And eventually, like 40 years from now, people will forget about the Spielberg classic, and so then they'll remake it, and then all the old folks will be like, you should have seen that original Jurassic Park. It runs circles around this one. Yeah, I felt like The Matrix was just like, it had its thing, and there you go.
Yeah, like that was it.
Yeah,
there is no other.
I mean, I know that there was that animated series, The Animatrix,
right?
Which, like, okay, so that's part of the story too, but that came out, like right around then. That's not like it came out like a million years later. But yeah, that franchise seems super dead to me. Yeah. And not like it's dead to me. Yeah. But like,
no, like it's complete.
Yeah, like it did its thing and it's cool.
Yeah, it had its beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, this will be interesting. I mean,
yeah, definitely have to keep an eye out for future developments.
Yeah,
to make a more firm decision on whether or not I'll see it.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about, like, the third one came out in like 2003. Just imagine the Matrix special effects they can do now.
That's right.
Like, that's going to be pretty fucking wild. And I wonder if they're going to de-age everybody.
Yeah.
Because considering, exactly, it's like, for one, it would make sense in terms of like, I know everyone likes to say Keanu doesn't age, but he very clearly is much older than he was then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like,
he still looks great.
Yeah.
But
so it's like, I guess it depends exactly how they're playing it, how much of this, and thinking how much of it is going to take place in the Matrix, that sort of thing, where it's like, in that case, nobody's even going to give a shit if it looks a little goofy, if the technology. Yeah, because
you're in the Matrix.
Exactly, it's the Matrix.
It's computer generated.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I was talking about in Wanting. You know what I mean? Like doing a sequel years later, but being like, fuck it. Kick it back, make it just shortly after the last movie so that when you watch them, it doesn't feel like you're watching 3 movies that came out in a short period of time and then what the fuck is this?
Yeah, 20 years later.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that's another one of those things with Scream. Whereas like Scream 3 was 2000.
Yeah.
Scream 4 was 2011. Like not just in terms of era, but how old everyone was, just how much different it even looks as a film. Like the technology changing from then to now. Like I bet you that was shot a lot on digital. Back then it was all shot on film. So it's it's just going to have a different look. So it's like, geez. So in this case, it'd be really cool to kick it back and be like, no, this story takes place in our time, 2005 or something crazy like that. That'd be pretty cool. But one thing that is a little troubling, and I will admit, there might be a very easy answer to this because I don't remember how that third one ended, but that there's no confirmation on Lawrence Fishburne. Like, was he pretty definitively done at the end of that? Was it like, and now I'm off to be with my people or something like that? Or did he die or something? I don't know.
I remember that he was in Zion.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember how his storyline wrapped up.
It would just be it would be a shame to not have him back.
I'm wondering if it's just a scheduling thing at the moment because he's on that show Blackish. So,
well, I mean, they do favors for folks all the time on those shows where it's like, oh, Uncle Jimmy went on vacation, so he's not going to be in like 10 to 12 episodes. Yeah. So it's like they could do that. They could do something for him, especially for The Matrix. Come on.
Yeah.
And I wonder if if they have any reason to bring Hugo Weaving back.
I mean, you'd almost have to, I think.
I
guess not because of how the third one ended.
Yeah.
With him defeating Agent Smith. And then I'm like, as I continue remembering the movie, I'm like 80% sure that they like all exploded. Like he just explode into goo, like no, just like disintegrate, explode, like they explode into light, and I'm pretty sure that explosion is what kills Neo in the Matrix, and then therefore
in the real world. Gotcha. I wonder. I mean, considering the fact that if Neo being dead somehow isn't the end of his story, at the very least, the destruction of all those Agent Smiths might as well be the end of the whole Agent Smith kind of arc. Probably wonder that if they're thinking like, okay, let's see if this really is as big of a thing these days as it was back then. Give it another movie, and then if it's successful, be like, oh, by the way, we were planning a secret new trilogy. You know what I mean? And so it instead of continuing the old arcs, we'll be starting new ones.
There's a new enemy.
Yeah, exactly. I bet you that's probably where they're going with it.
Yeah. Because I don't remember how all of the like crazy like programming and stuff in the Matrix for the agents works. Because weren't
they like a virus or
no,
or is that what he calls them?
Agent Smith calls humans a virus.
Right. Okay.
But there were like at least 2 other agents.
Were they named?
They have names. I just don't know what they are. Because they eventually didn't matter because the Agent Smith took over.
Yeah.
And so he started like cloning himself with the other agents and whatnot. So I don't know if like if those other agents would have any role in the new movie.
I mean,
or if they would abandon the agents altogether.
I was gonna say though, it's like if they do that, it's like, man, that was such a part of the aesthetic of those movies. Was that black suited like G-Man looking bad guy?
Yeah.
Where it's like if you turn it into something else, it's like I wonder how people would react to that.
Yeah.
If the bad guys were suddenly not agents, it's like, wait a minute.
Or now they're like new kinds of agents. Like
super slim fit suits. Those like square bottom ties. Like what the fuck? Bunch of hipsters.
Hipster agents.
Yeah, goddamn hipsters.
They must be defeated.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something fun to look out for. I'm normally not, well, I bet you if I think about it, I'm going to contradict myself, but I'm normally not that big on the whole like legacy movie sequel so many years later. Like I know they released all that footage in a trailer and stuff for the Top Gun sequel that now is finally going to come out. And I'm like, don't care.
Yeah.
I'm very Jay Cutler about it. Don't care. But yeah, this one is a little bit more down my avenue, even if I didn't really like those sequels that much.
Yeah.
It's like I still really like that first one, so it's like I'm down to see what it's like.
Yeah.
See what they bring to the table now.
Plus, Keanu.
Yeah. I mean, you have to feel a little bit like maybe a little bit bad for the Wachowskis simply because like, they put out The Matrix, everyone was like, "Oh my god." And then I'll definitely get the order wrong, but it's like they had Speed Racer and everyone was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Oh shit, you didn't like that?" And it's like, "No, nobody liked it." And I mean, a bunch of people eventually sort of found it like more of a cult thing, but in terms of when it came out, people were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh geez, sorry." And then it's like, what about Cloud Atlas, where it's taking place, across 5 different universes and people play, 6 different parts with sometimes Tom Hanks is Asian and all this sort of craziness. Like, you guys like that? Do you like that? And everyone's like, no.
Stop scaring us.
Yeah, this is getting weird. And then I think they did that. Oh god, it was called like Jupiter Ascending or something with Channing Tatum and Eddie Redmayne as this like ridiculously camp bad guy, and people were just like, Wachowskis, cut it out.
Yeah.
This is just getting fucking weird. Like, they've tried to do a ton of, I mean, obviously Speed Racer is based on something, but like they've been trying to do a ton of like original shit ever since they did The Matrix. And then now finally it's come back to like, all right, fine, we'll do The Matrix. At least Lana will.
Yeah.
But the last thing that I kind of stumbled across, because there's been a bunch of like trailers released. There's always trailers being released.
Right.
But there were a bunch of trailers released, little teasers for things that are to come. I watched a handful of them. None of them really popped all that much. I was just kind of like, oh, okay. But one of them struck me. First of all, I mean, I'm always kind of on the lookout. Like, if there's a trailer for something and it says like drama, I'm like, and I'd have to really like sort of be like, oh, this person's in it. Maybe I'll check it out. Or, this. Or even for like action movies or things like that. If it's something that I haven't really heard of, I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it unless there's something that kind of grabs me.
Yeah.
But I do kind of try to make a point to watch horror movie trailers because of how little press they get in general. So it's like, if I'm going to find something, I kind of have to look for it.
Yeah.
The award ceremonies will tell me, drama that's going to be coming out. But the horror movies, you got to find that on your own.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I saw it, I sort of stopped cold and I was just like, it's like, oh no, did somebody steal Kevin Smith's Killer Moose movie idea before he got to do Moose Jaws? Aghast because his horror movie title was Antlers. Oh. And I was like, oh fuck no. But so I clicked on it and I watched the trailer, and it was kind of interesting. It kind of caught my attention. Basically the trailer, you see it and it's like a kid telling a story, like a fairy tale that he wrote, because intercut they have shots of him like holding a piece of paper in a classroom, so he's reading his story that he wrote. But he's talking about this family of bears, and there's Big Bear and there's Little Bear and there's Baby Bear, and one day Big Bear and Baby Bear, they get sick and they get meaner and angrier, and Middle Bear has to keep them in the cave so that they don't go out and hurt anybody. And it's like, oh, whoa. Like for a kid's story, it's like, oh, what are you talking about there, kid? There's clearly some subtext going on.
Yeah.
And the teacher, I forget her name. I think it's Carrie Russell actually. But the teacher, his teacher kind of like, oh, he's clearly something's up at home, and she goes to investigate. Being the helpful, caring teacher that she is.
Right.
And since it's a horror movie, that's a terrible idea.
Right.
And
never be helpful in a horror movie.
Exactly. Good Samaritans get it the worst. There's some shots and it's clearly, a monster movie sort of thing. The antlers aren't really a huge motif in the trailer, so to speak. It's like you don't really see it or anything. So it's like it's assumed sort of what the creature looks like.
Yeah.
At least until you read the short story that it's based on.
Oh.
Because it's a short story. Did you ever hear the show Channel Zero?
No.
I think it was on Sci-Fi or something like that.
Okay.
But essentially what they would do is they would take scary stories from the internet and turn them into seasons of like a horror show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like, but one of the guys who wrote it wrote this short story, and I'm not gonna like read the whole thing or whatever. But it's I at least just want to get, because I'll post like the link to it onto Facebook and whatnot for anyone else to read it if they think it sounds interesting. Guernicamag.com is where it was like published. But it's Nick and Tosca, and the story is called The Quiet Boy.
Okay.
And it's they use like a little snippet of a paragraph from the story in like right under the title. So I'll at least read out that, so it's like, oh man, but you know, kind of feeling the vibe from that trailer. It's like, but there was no gold, because and another thing too, I don't know why they change it. I don't know why movies change tiny little things from the story. It bothers me so much. In the story, it's a story of wolves. In the movie, they change it to bears.
Whatever.
It's just like, it immediately is like, oh wait. But yeah, but there was no Goldilocks in his story. There were only the wolves who lived together in a cave above a town. Big wolf, middle wolf, and little wolf. Big wolf was a brute. Little wolf was timid. Middle wolf was the peacemaker. It's like, that's obviously those aren't his words from the story, but yeah, I had seen that trailer and I thought it was pretty interesting. And as usual, in the comment section underneath it, somebody was like, yeah, and if that looks cool, you should check out the short story it was adapted from, because it doesn't say that anywhere at all. Like, I even went to the Wikipedia page for the movie, and it makes no mention that it's based on like a short story. It has like a based on a story by and then the author's name, but it doesn't tell you what the story is. It's like, god damn it, I want to know what is it based on. And so someone put the link to it, and I was like, okay, I'll take a look. I'll see what it is, because as much as I like fiction, horror, and that kind of stuff, I am very critical of it, like right off the bat, where it's like kind of suspicious that it's not going to be nearly as scary as it wants to be. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like bone chilling, but it is a really fun little story, and I loved the way that it ended. And they didn't spoil it in the comments, but they just specifically mentioned like, oof, that ending. And so it was like, oh geez, okay, I hope that didn't really wreck anything. But it's like, once you get there, it was like, oh yeah, oof, that ending. But it's a really good one. And I did a tiny bit more digging. And I was able to find a draft of the script for Antlers. It was a while ago. I believe it was before the current director signed on. And he specifically did a pass of the script himself. So it's like, okay, very well, could be a bunch of changes to it. But I was very bummed, because it's like, obviously if you hear oof, what an ending, you know, it's probably not like, oh yeah, and there's rainbows and sunshine and bunny rabbits and whatever.
Everyone was cured and everyone's happy.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, that something not great will probably go down. And in the script, basically makes the ending of the story like the end of the second act of the movie.
What?
So it's like the real story ended there, but they changed one thing about it so that the story could keep going, and they kept it going. So it's like, okay, at least they didn't just make that the ending and ruin it. They came up with they ruined it, but then made a whole bigger chunk of movie to go. So it's kind of, you know, separate from the original piece. But it is a bit of a bummer that like they purposefully kind of sidestepped the ending to the story, because I would absolutely recommend reading it, because it's like, to me, I know I'm a pretty fast reader, but to me it was probably like 10 minutes. So it's like, it probably wouldn't take people who just like hang out and leisurely read it more than like 20-25 minutes, something like that. It's a quick moving little story. Based on the trailer, it was a really weird sequence of events, because it's like, I watched the trailer and I got kind of interested in the story, and then I read the story and I was like, oh man, this was pretty fun. And then I went back and I watched the trailer and I was like, but I'm not sure how they got this movie out of it. Like, I get it, it's not like it's completely foreign, but the way that the events and things are described in the story is it feels a little more low key than the like kind of crazy zany monster movie that it seems to become. Also, for some reason, they changed the relationship of the main, because there's the main teacher character who's, you know, trying to look after this kid. And obviously there's the kid, but and then there's the town sheriff or whatever. And I remember it very specifically because I liked the little line from the short story, but because something sort of terrible happens and she has to call the police, and the police show up, and it says, on another day she would have found him handsome. Like today she's too frazzled, but on another day she would have found, like, it's a fun way to describe a character.
Yeah.
In the movie, they're brother and sister.
What?
And I was like,
okay.
Yeah, I was a little put off by that. I was like, wait, why? Like, it's not even like it's like that ruins it.
Yeah.
But it was just like it's very specific that they're not related at all in the story. And then I realized, I was like, shit, that might also kind of change her character, because right at the top in the short story they mention how like Teach for America or some sort of program that she was involved in kind of like dumped her here in this rural kind of town. So she's an outsider.
Yeah.
Coming in, but now if she's the sheriff's sister, then it's like, oh, then you probably grew up here.
Yeah.
And it's probably your hometown. So it feels, it felt better as like an outsider trying to come in and help was kind of like a theme of it. You know what I mean? And so this idea that it's like, okay, so she meets this kid who's like kind of weird and tweaky and, just off. If she's a newcomer, then it makes sense that she doesn't know who he is, because the other teachers in the story are like, oh yeah, that kid, he's kind of a lost cause, this and that. Yeah. But in this case, it's like, you probably know who this kid is, right? If he lives in the town that you grew up in, it's a little, it just sort of changes the trajectory of some of the storylines that kind of undercuts it a little bit, makes it a little weird to me. Like, I kind of like the fact that she was sort of like, she was in over her head before she started getting in over her head with the crazy story. You know what I mean? Because she's like living in a cottage behind another house and she doesn't know anybody and this and that. So it kind of had this aura of loneliness to her that it was like, oh, I need to reach out and I need to help and I need to make a difference. And it's like, oh, that's the worst choice you could make right now. So in this case now it's like, I wonder how they're going to kind of counteract the fact that like none of that'll be there.
Yeah. I mean, it could be maybe her brother got a job as a sheriff, in a state that he moved to. And she, maybe not Teach for America, but whatever happens, and she winds up staying in the cottage behind his house. And then she knows one person, the sheriff. Yeah. And possibly his significant other and or children.
Yeah, I have no clue how any of the rest of that's playing out. But it was just a really cool little trailer that I was like, oh man, because there was one posted to like our movies, and they had a bunch of obviously the Matrix post was at the top of the page, and the James Bond news was at the top of the page, and Spider-Man being gone from the MCU was at the top of the page. But this one had like 60 upvotes and like 20 comments on it and something like that. And it was clearly just going to get
just
swept
buried
away. Yeah. But there was a more popular post on Our Horror, because obviously they'll have pretty much everything. I do love being subscribed to Our Horror, because there's always some interesting shit that you sometimes get out of there. Because like that story, I've found stuff like that before where it's like, because it's just horror. It's not like horror movies. So it's like they'll talk about horror games and horror novels and horror movies and TV shows. And every once in a while, you'll find something cool like that. Like, here's a little short story that nobody's heard of before. Like, oh, fuck, I'm going to check that out. For anybody who might be listening who's like, yeah, that sounds like a pretty cool short story, I'll post a link to it because it's good.
You guys have to wait.
Yeah, you have to wait. I mean, you don't know you have to wait.
Yeah.
It's like a time vortex sometimes. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that kind of popped out at me lately. Those were the three big ones that I was kind of like, yeah. Oh, there was one funny little thing. So, sort of a little bit on theme, but when you're talking about how like Matrix, you couldn't reboot that or like remake that. Another one, Scream. I don't think you could ever make a new Scream, like a first Scream again.
No,
that could never happen. But there was some rumblings that Blumhouse had like secured the rights to do Scream or something like that, whatever. And it's like, oh man, and it's kind of a conflicted sort of thing where it's like, okay, I mean, I dug what you did with Halloween.
Yeah.
It's like I really did dig that. And if you're looking at the like reboot angle as opposed to a remake, then they kind of already rebooted it with Scream 4. That was kind of the point, was that it was making fun of reboots and remakes. So it's like, I don't even know where you would fucking go with it anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you literally went ghosts. like and made it a parody, not even a parody, but made it like a satirical take on all the ghost house movies that have been coming out. But I was just like, I don't even know where they would go from there.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Oh,
there's no plans for it. There's no whatever. But the way that it was revealed that there was no plans for that or anything like that is that one of the producers at Blumhouse, it wasn't Blum himself, wasn't Blumself. It was one of the other like head guys over there.
Yeah.
He posted on Twitter, he posted a link to that news article, the like, wherever it was hosted, like, oh, does Blumhouse have the rights to do Scream again? And his tweet connected to it, all it said was, I wish. So it's like, no, we don't. That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, I really don't know where you would ever go with it, especially after that. Maybe we can do an episode pitching ideas for how one would reboot the Scream franchise. Easy, you don't. End of story.
Podcast over.
Yeah. Speaking of podcast over, I think this is going to be the end of this podcast for today.
Yeah.
So signing off for Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.